Ready for overflow. Ready for overflow. Ready for overflow.
Are you ready for your overflow? Are you ready for your overflow? God has promised to overflow your life for you today. This is how the universe works. Oh, it's quiet as a church mouse. 8 years ago, aren't we thankful for our band and our singers? When I came here 8 years ago, we were on a little tiny stage back here, like a Minnie Mouse stage. We had maybe a piano player, and none of you guys, you weren't here yet. But Reverend Temple and I, as pastors, got on our spiritual knees, and we were ready for overflow. And look what God brought us across this stage. Look what God has brought us here. Our sound department, our AV department, Reverend Chris. I just called you Reverend. He isn't home. But are you ready? Because what you ask for, you get. What you ask for, you get. Let me give you an example of that. I'm an interfaith pastor. And that might be because I love so many different cultures. Does somebody back there applaud? Yeah. Yay. But I love cultures. I love different foods. How many people have been out of the country? And I hope the rest of you have been out of the state of Florida at least. If you haven't, I know you got something on your flip phone. But I love to go out of the country. And I'm holding myself back not to move to Thailand. I have such an urge to go to Thailand. But I love to go out of the country because I want to do what the locals do. When we were just in Puerto Rico. We didn't hang out in the touristy areas of Puerto Rico. We went and found the mom and pop places to eat. I want to be exposed to different cultures. If I make friends with you and you're from another country, I want to know what kind of shoes you wear, what you eat, what your mama did, how you spent your day. I want to know about you. Because I realize that the differences in us makes us stronger. I always kind of scratch my head at those people who don't like to surround themselves with people who are different than them. And that could be a whole nother Sunday message. But recently in Atlanta, I go to Atlanta. I was there last week. I flew in last night, and Reverend Temple comes back in today, so we were both running back in here. But I go to Atlanta, and I love the International Farmers Market in Atlanta. Has anybody been there? A couple of you have. It's wonderful. It's nothing like Publix. It's nothing like the Piccadilly. No, they don't have that here. Anyway, but the beautiful thing is, excuse me, you go in and the produce is over here. They've got beautiful produce, a bunch of stuff I don't even know what it is, but it's beautiful. And I wish I knew how to cook it, but it's beautiful. And you go down each aisle, and there's the Italian aisle, lots of pastas and olive oils, and the Spanish aisle. The sad thing is, you go to the aisle that says American, it's box stuff on this side and canned stuff on this side. But I'll tell you this story because when I was there shopping recently, I was with a Japanese friend of mine who's 100% Japanese, raised in Brazil, knows 4 languages. I pick his brain like a bird picking on a piece of feed. I want to know everything that he's experienced in areas that I haven't. So he and I were shopping together, and we're going down all the aisles, and I'm saying, well, what's this? Because Lord knows I can't read any of the packaging. What's this? What's this? I've learned some wonderful Japanese or Asian desserts and sweets. But he kept bragging, not really bragging in a bad way, but he kept going on about the rice in Brazil and in Japan. So we're going down. He's like, well, the rice we have there is different than it is here. It's really good. Not saying that the rice here in the States is bad, but it's just different. He has told me this story 50 times. So I said, well, why don't you have your daddy in Brazil send us a picture of the rice? So he texts his daddy, because that's the beautiful thing about texting. We've got family that lives in Germany. We text them all the time. wake him up, but we text him. So we text his father and ask him to send a picture of the rice that they have in Brazil. So maybe we could find it here. His father replies back, ask what you want in specifics. We wanted a picture of the box or the bag of rice they ate in Brazil. Daddy followed us what we said, and we got a bowl of rice. Be specific in what you want from the universe. Be specific from what you want from God, our Creator. That's all right, we can applaud here. This is church. If you want a Cadillac or a Benz, don't ask for a Pinto, and I'm not talking about a bean. If you're looking for a princess, or if you're looking for a prince, or something in between, don't meditate on a scrub. And those who are under 35 know what a scrub is. Somebody remembers that song. So be specific on what you want. I know some of you aren't comfortable with that. Coming from traditional religion or traditional church, we go, well, I'm not worthy of that. Well, I shouldn't do that. Well, I can't do that. Well, I'd like to do that, but I'm not worthy. Get over it. Get over yourself, because that's an excuse. Ask God for what you want. And when you ask God for what you want, an abundance of blessings will open for you. I like in Matthew, it says 7 through 11, in chapter 7, ask and it shall be given. Seek and ye shall find. Knock and it shall open. Ask, seek, knock, and it will open. If you read no more inspirational words, listen to no more tapes, I would ask you, well, it went away. Put that on your mirror and meditate on it. Honor God in asking God boldly what is your inheritance. Boldly ask God for what you want. Honor God. Say, God, I need a healing. Not, well, God, I wish you would give me a healing. I'm about over those kind of church people. And some of you might be sitting in the back. But ask boldly for a healing. Ask boldly for a restoration. Ask boldly. Here's where you get really wobbly. Ask boldly for a financial breakthrough. All this is part of your abundance. Don't ask to win the lottery if you've never played the lottery. I always say, this is fun, I want to go to a sidebar here. A friend of mine was talking about winning the lottery. I said, God's not going to give you the lottery because you can't balance the $37 you got in your checkbook now. Can you imagine if you had $300 million? Amazon would be real wealthy. But ask boldly in your finances. That's why we ask boldly. When we do our offering, we ask you to, not for just the church, we ask you for spiritual growth, to give boldly. Ask and you shall receive. Are you ready for an overflow? Yeah. Woo, y'all are much more awake than the first service was. Are you ready for an overflow? Yeah. How about you in the back? So ask for it. You know, I love the story. It's in the 2nd chapter of Kings about the old lady and her scrubbed son and her jar of oil. She said, this is all I've got is this one jar of oil and my scrubbed son. So she was instructed, boldly instructed, pick that jar up and go into your house with your scrubbed son and close the door. Metaphysically closing the door, like the song said, kick it out. Because what's inside that door that's blocking your blessing, you need to kick out the door. Kick it out. And then close the door behind you. Because in that quiet, still space is where you're going to hear from the voice of God. Praying is petitioning. Meditation behind that closed door is hearing. And waiting for the abundance of overflow to happen. So she puts her jar down, and she instructed her son before they went in, go to all the neighbors, because you have to realize you sometimes have to tap into your neighbor's blessing to get your blessing. And don't be afraid to do it. If your neighbor is living in a fine house and driving a fine car and doesn't seem to have a shortage of money, and you can't rub two beans together or buy that Pinto that we were talking about, you better belly up and friend the neighbor. Friend the neighbor and ask or observe. Ask them, observe how they're getting their blessing. She puts her jar of oil down, her one jar of oil, and she brings the other jars in from her neighbors. And the oil starts to swell in there. She put more urns out. The oil starts to swell. It started to multiply because she started walking in the belief of the abundance. The belief that what she asked for will come to pass. Understanding that she's a child of God and that abundance is there for her to tap into. I believe very much in prayer, the strong, fervent prayer. Many of you have come to me and asked me in prayer, and you know I will, without hesitation, stop whatever I'm doing and join you in prayer. Camille has done it several times. And I love that you asked me to share that time and space with you. Sometimes we text it, sometimes we do it in person. But I, as a pastor, as you're a pastor, as you're one of your spiritual leaders here, honor that time that I get to stand to petition God with you. We're sitting at the foot of God with his abundance pouring down upon us because it's ours. I believe very much in the power of prayer. The power of prayer is fabulous. And if you are hesitant in your prayer life, practice. Just like you do your meditation. I bet you I could take and I won't ask you to raise your hand on this one. How many people in here go into prayer every day? When my feet, some people still do it, I love it. My feet hit the ground talking to God. My feet go to bed talking and meditating with God. I ask you, you come to meditation on Wednesday night, but when did you take an hour to pray? Woo. Prayer is petitioning God. Meditation is hearing from God. When the lady got in her house with her urn of oil, it was a quiet time that she could hear from God. And she knocked. God said, you're worthy. You're a child of God. Just like you're a child of God. Just like I'm a child of God. Just like the people who are outside this wall. We're all God's children. He created the universe. He flung the very existence in the universe for your every cell in your DNA in your body. And you should be happy about that. Come in this church and rejoice because it all happened for you. I didn't say to you, I said for you. And I believe in prayer. This is how fast, how strong prayer happens. 2 Fridays ago, some of you know that I have a salon in Atlanta. I go up there about every 3 weeks and twirl some hair. And one of my clients, who I do, her mother, and her daughter, for about 20 years, texted me on a Friday night and said, we may not be able to make our Saturday morning appointment because Daddy's in hospice and we're not expecting him to last. He's getting ready to step over. And I just simply wrote back, I totally understand, know that you and your family are in my prayers and my wishes. They came in on Saturday and said, Daddy is still around. You know how that is with hospice sometimes. So the week went by, and this past Friday night, she texts me, Daddy's still barely holding on. And I replied back in prayer, love you, love your mama. My prayers are that you and the family will be strong, but I'm not praying for him to come back. I'm praying for him to step on. And my prayers are that you will all come to him and say, goodbye, Daddy. It's time to go on. We release you into your next assignment. That was about 8:43 in the evening. Yesterday was Saturday. Yesterday afternoon, she gave me a follow-up. She said, thank you very much for your prayers, but like at 9:12, Daddy passed because we released Daddy. That's how powerful prayers are. Know where you stand in your prayer life. You know, the Spirit of God's not forceful. We as humans are. God's not forceful. Paint this. Sicily, 1942. Oh no, that was the Golden Girls. God patiently stands right here. He's given you everything because you're an inherent child of God. And you just stand here. Thank you, God. And you have the availability to reach over and take everything that's inherently yours. Give me that. Do it boldly. If he took the time to fling the universe into existence, you can do it boldly. Honor God. God, I need a breakthrough. God, I need a blessing. God, I need a relationship healed. If God had a face, it might look like this. Or that. Or that. But when you go to God boldly and ask God for a blessing, that smile gets about this big. Religions have taught you you're not worthy. Some spiritual communities have told you you're not worthy. You have to get to a super upper echelon to have the experience with God. Error. Great error that is taught. God says, I will open a window of heaven, and the blessings will come out that you will not be able to comprehend. I gave, and I hope each and everybody here has one. If you don't, raise your hand, an usher will get you one. Sometimes I sit at my desk here in the office. In my office at my desk. Let me phrase that sentence right, halfway right. And I meditate and I pray. And sometimes I just look, and sometimes I don't know names, but sometimes I just look over your faces in spirit and I pray. I pray for every prayer that comes through that prayer box. Our chaplains pray over every prayer that comes in that. That's how this, unity was based on a prayer that came to pass. Maybe, if I think it was 3 years before Charles even took serious the healing. But I gave you this Saint Michael. And Saint Michael wasn't a saint. He was an archangel. He was an archangel over the God's army. And the beautiful thing is, I'm not saying you have to go to an angel, because we have a direct connection to the creator of the universe. We don't have to go to an angel for a blessing, because they're God's armies watching around us. You don't even see them, they're around us. But I encourage you to put this in your hand. And what made me think of this is I gave one of these to a friend who was going through a little bit of difficulty in her life. And she put it in her pocket, and every time she ran her hand into her pocket, it was actually a little dove on a stone. She said, every time I put my hand in the pocket, it was like, oh. And it made her think of the blessings that she had. She said, sometimes life gets down and out on me. And I just happen by some chance, the universe makes me put my hand in my pocket, and I run into that stone. And the blessing reconnects. So I'm asking you to take your St. Michael, and I gave you this to keep. We're not taking it back up. I encourage you to put this on a charm, your earrings, or in your change purse is a wonderful place. So therefore, every time you go in for change, you hit it. I want you to, if you need one, Chris is walking around giving them. I want you to keep this. This is a love token. Because I've already prayed over this myself. This church has already prayed over this. You're connected with hundreds of people. Because that's how powerful prayer is. When two or more are joined together. I said when two or more are joined together. Well, we got a whole lot more than two. I want you to ask the universe boldly for a blessing. Ask the universe boldly for a healing. And you can close your eyes now. Talk to God. God's in you, through you, and as you. Universe, you brought us here for a time such as this. Thank you, Spirit. We walked boldly in what you have promised us. We walked boldly into asking for favor. We walked boldly knowing that's ours. Someone within the sound of my voice, or maybe on the internet, got a bad report today or this week. Ask boldly. Ask boldly to turn over that negative outcome or that negative report. I ask you over the next 40 days and forever to walk boldly. Wherever you put this charm over the next 40 days, take the time that when you bump into it, you reconnect with that prayer, that thought that you have right now. That prayer right now. Whether you're praying for yourself or praying for someone else. Meet God at the throne. And know that whatever you ask for, God will give you. 40 days from now is Good Friday. I challenge you for the next 40 days to be dedicated to your prayer life. Be dedicated to seek out what God has in store for you beyond your comprehension. And I bet come Easter morning, and that's 2 days after Good Friday, if you didn't know, many of you will come in. You know, we have abundance sheets over here. We have an abundance box. I will guarantee over the next 40 days, that box will overflow if you just walk in your inheritance. And so it is. Thank you for being here.